Good evening and welcome to the Saturday edition of Poland Daily. I'm Conrad Gorlinski. Let's see what's in the news today. Well, it's the 171st day of the war in Ukraine. The president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, called on European Union countries to ban issuing visas to all Russian citizens. Analysts from the American think tank Institute for War Research believe that Russia is planning to restart and develop its arms industry in order to prepare for a protracted war in Ukraine. And according to Ukrainian authorities, there have been 450 attacks on cultural heritage sites since the beginning of the war.
The Ukraine authorities appeals to the countries of the West to recognize Russia as a terrorist country and to introduce a travel ban on citizens of the country as well. First of all, it must be guaranteed that Russian murderers and accomplices of state terror are not allowed to have visas to the Schengen area. Secondly, the very idea of Europe cannot be destroyed, which means that we cannot turn Europe into a supermarket where it does not matter who enters it, and all that matters is that the purchases are paid for. Therefore, visa restrictions for citizens of the Russian Federation are right, and all defenders of European values must put pressure on them. The president of Ukraine said that he had a telephone conversation with Pope Francis. Zelensky informed the head of the apostolic capital about the current situation on the front, the fate of the civilian population, and about Russia's constant attempts to intensify terror. We talked about what we can do to restore peace in the country. Pope Francis agrees with me and supports us. I also thank the Czech Republic, the Baltic states, and other countries that have brought discussions in Europe to the topic of the visa ban for citizens of a terrorist state to a debate at international level. The armed forces of Ukraine carried out further attacks on a key bridge in the Kherson Oblast. The Operational Command South announced that the target of the shelling was an object on the dam in Nova Kakhovka, which made it impossible for the Russian forces to cross. 46 soldiers of the aggressor were also killed, and 15 armored and military vehicles were destroyed in southern Ukraine, the Ukraine Army Command informed. On the other hand, the Air Force reported that the runway of this Russian base in Crimea, which was bombed on August 9th, remained operational. The U.S. Department of Defense confirmed that Ukrainian forces bombed the Russian-controlled Saki air base in the Crimea on August 9th. The British Ministry of Defense said that the Russian Black Sea Fleet had been weakened. Meanwhile, Moscow claims that no attack took place, and Kyiv neither confirmed nor denied Ukraine participation in the action. Earlier, the Pentagon stated that the attack did not use U.S.-supplied weapons. The General Staff of Ukraine reported that since the beginning of the war, Russia has lost approximately 43,400 soldiers, over 1,850 tanks, and 4,100 armored fighting vehicles. The company Maxair Technologies has published photos of the Belarusian Zhabrowk airport, which shows traces of a fire that occurred on Wednesday to Thursday night after a series of explosions. Russia continues shelling civilian and military infrastructure. The attacks intensified after the shelling of Crimea 4 days ago. These are photos from Kharkiv after overnight shelling, and these are the streets of Bakhmut. We were not supposed to run away and seek refuge in other people's homes. I've been working hard at the factory all my life. It took us 10 years to build this house. We collected building materials, and now I should leave it all? We were ordered to leave, but where to? I stand by Ukraine. I love Ukraine, but there is no other place than here in Kramatorsk where we feel needed. I have worked for Ukraine all my life. The Turkish Ministry of Defense announced that 2 more ships loaded with grain left the Black Sea port of Odessa. They contain 12,000 tons of corn and 3,000 tons of sunflower seeds. This is possible thanks to the recent agreement with the help of the UN and Turkey. Transports are faced with many difficulties, but today the first ship has entered the Italian port of Ravenna. Today is a very important day for us because today the first ship carrying Ukrainian grain has arrived in the port of Ravenna. It is the first ship since the beginning of Russia's unjustified war with Ukraine. It is a symbolic and very important day for the local and global market. Morale among Ukrainians is high not only among the military. Almost all of society believes in a victory over Russia. This is the result of a survey by Rayton Studios. In June, as much as 98% of respondents declared their confidence in the defeat of the invader by Ukraine. Only 1% had the opposite opinion, and only 1% could not answer the question.
An unknown contamination of Poland's second largest river has caused an ecological disaster. For causing it, the opposition, led by Donald Tusk, is accusing the ruling party. The sight of shoals of dead fish flowing downstream of the Odor River also alarmed Poland's western neighbors. It was from Germany that unconfirmed information about the presence of mercury in the water had arrived. After initial resignations, Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki announced that he would take severe action against all those responsible for this situation. Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki dismissed Przemysław Daca, the head of Polish Waters, and Michał Mistrzak, the chief inspector of environmental protection. The Prime Minister also stressed that all persons responsible for poisoning the river will be held criminally responsible. I've drawn the HR consequences, and if I come to the conclusion that there's been a serious breach of duties or any delayed reactions, further consequences will be drawn. The government has taken steps to prevent the spread of pollution and to save the fauna and flora of the Odor. First of all, removing dead fish and quickly restoring the river to its original state. The second segment is monitoring the level of drinking water in the nearest towns to the Odor River and water in the Odor River itself. This will be done by the Voivodeship Environmental Protection Inspectorate. The Army, the Territorial Defense Forces, and the state and voluntary fire brigades joined the rescue operation. Lubuskie Veterinary Medicine in all districts and 5 districts in the Lubuskie section is taking fish samples and sending them to the laboratory in Puławy. These results will also be known, and very important, ladies and gentlemen, all those fish that lie dead or that the Odor River throws ashore are being removed very intensely every day. Opposition circles repeated unconfirmed information that there's deadly mercury in the Odor River. On the other hand, if the meeting with the governor begins with the fact that there's a reprimand for one of the district governors, then he publishes unverified German information that there may be mercury in the Odor River, then this is some kind of mistake. It's not only the fish in the Odor River that are dying. The whole country is dying under the rule of Kaczyński. Peace is like mercury. It turned out, however, according to research conducted by both Polish and German scientists, no mercury has been found in the Odor. The Climate Ministry has officially received information from the Federal Republic of Germany that the German results are the same as the Polish results in terms of mercury content as well. We have the same parameters, which indicate certain elevated factors among
mamy te same parametry.
Fortunately, this turned out to be a lie. Fortunately for the river, because for Donald Tusk, there's probably no salvation in terms of his political credibility. Marian Kowalski noted that the Prime Minister's decision to dismiss officials shows that the state is working. In Poland, paradoxically, we deal with this type of disaster very rarely. It can be said that such a dormancy of responsible persons or institutions results from the fact that they are not constantly mobilized to action. The government has announced that thorough research is underway to determine what substance has poisoned the river. At the same time, a police investigation into the pollution of the Odor River is being carried out. And still in Germany, Germany will introduce new regulations to cope with energy shortages as the country is finding itself struggling after the recent reductions in Russian gas supplies. Germans may feel a bit chilly this winter.
A reduction of 1 degree Celsius in indoor heating saves 6% of gas, according to research released by the German Energy Agency. Under the new energy security law, more than 180,000 public buildings in Germany will only be allowed to heat no higher than 19 degrees Celsius. At the same time, illumination of buildings, monuments, billboards, and the lights should be switched off at night to save electricity. Robert Habeck, German Vice-Chancellor and the Minister for Economic Affairs and Climate Action, said that the German Ministry of Economic Affairs is discussing specific measures of the energy security law with the Ministry of Labor and Social Organizations, adding that it is still uncertain when the new regulations will take effect. Due to the current gas supply crisis, the Meeheim power plant in Germany recently resumed operation, becoming the first hard coal-fired power plant in the country to do so. Germany is the only industrialized country to phase out coal and nuclear energy, but as gas flows from Russia via the strategically important Nord Stream 1 pipeline have been reduced to 20%, the German government is considering halting the country's nuclear phase-out and preparing further legislation to bring back lignite-fired power plants to the electricity market.
Earlier today, at a dance music festival near the Spanish city of Valencia, high winds caused a large part of the main stage to collapse on a crowd below. One person died and dozens were injured. We were caught at the campsite. Suddenly, there was a lot of wind, very hot air. All the sand started to move. We saw tents flying. Then people started to come from the concerts to the campsite. And according to what they told us, parts of the stage, wood was blown away. It was chaos. Other infrastructure was also damaged when gusts battered the Medusa Festival, a huge electronic music festival held over 6 days in the east coast town of Cullera, south of Valencia. Of the injured, 3 suffered serious trauma injuries and 14 had more minor injuries, regional emergency services tweeted. Regional health authorities said that 40 people were attended to. National Weather Agency IMET said that there had been strong gusts of wind and a sudden rise in temperatures during the night, with gusts of up to 80 kilometers per hour recorded at Alicante Airport in the Valencia region. And finally, Indian-born novelist Salman Rushdie, who spent years in hiding after Iran urged Muslims to kill him because of his writing, was stabbed repeatedly yesterday at a lecture in New York State. Police have now released the name of the attacker.
He was still in surgery early Friday evening, state police said, following an attack condemned by writers and politicians around the world as an assault on the freedom of expression. A man rushed to the stage at the Chautauqua Institution and lunged at Rushdie, 75, as he was being introduced to give a talk on artistic freedom to an audience of hundreds. Stunned attendees helped wrest the man from Rushdie, who had fallen to the floor. A New York State police trooper providing security at the event arrested the attacker. Police identified the suspect as Hadi Matar, a 24-year-old man from Fairview, New Jersey, who bought a pass to the event. New York State Police Commander Eugene Staniszewski briefed the media.
At this point, we're assuming he was alone, but we can't, we're looking to make sure that that was the case.
Rushdie, who was born into a Muslim Kashmiri family in Bombay, now Mumbai, before moving to the United Kingdom, has long faced death threats for his 4th novel, The Satanic Verses, which some Muslims said contained blasphemous passages. The novel was banned in many countries, with large Muslim populations upon its 1988 publication. Iran's semi-official Fars news agency and other news outlets donated money in 2016 to increase the bounty by $600,000. Fars called Rushdie an apostate who insulted the prophet in its report on Friday's attack.
As usual, thanks very much for joining us this evening. Please stay with us for Poland Daily Weather, Poland Daily Business, and other programs. But from me, it's have a wonderful Saturday night.